3 of the guys got into a stack and they went to assault the building, and somebody got on the roof of the building and with an AK and just sort of sprayed my guys as they were running up, and it hit my team sergeant in his legs. He went down, and it hit my senior 18 Echo, my engineer, Rob. It hit him in the head. And I was in the process of running down this car in my Humvee, and we hear on the radio, Eagles down, Eagles down, Eagles down. And I was just pissed.
Welcome to Combat Story. I'm Ryan Fugit, and I served Warzone tours as an Army attack helicopter pilot and CIA officer over a 15-year career. I'm fascinated by the experiences of the elite in combat. On this show, I interview some of the best to understand what combat felt like on their front lines. This is Combat Story. Today we hear the combat story of Jason Van Camp, a former Special Forces officer and ODA commander in 10th Special Forces Group who served multiple combat deployments to Iraq. Jason played linebacker at West Point and served a 2-year LDS-Mormon mission to Russia before starting active duty. As a Green Beret, Jason brought the fight to AQ and led soldiers through dangerous Special Forces missions that honed his leadership and team-building skills. Since leaving the military, Jason founded and is chairman of Mission 60, a leadership development firm, and is also executive director and co-founder at Warrior Rising, which empowers veterans in business. Jason is a Wall Street Journal and 2-time Amazon best-selling author for his book Deliberate Discomfort, and was recognized as a top military entrepreneur of the year in 2020. I hope you enjoy his humble yet impactful combat story as much as I did. Jason, thanks for taking the time to share your story today.
Absolutely, Ryan. Thanks for having me. This is going to be a lot of fun.
I know it is, and I want to start out going to, I want to pick up with you as a kid, and in particular, though, I want to provide some context here. I know we introed you already, but you're a best-selling author, basically, 2 businesses. You've helped others create businesses. You played D1 football. You've been an ODA team leader, and we'll get into a lot of this. But I'm just wondering if we parachuted into you and your life as a kid, were you running like a lemonade stand that was just dominating the competition? Did you always have this ambitious side to you?
That's a great question. I grew up in Springfield, Virginia, so not far from where you lived in McLean at one point. My mother really kind of pushed me academically and just sort of like for the business side. My dad really pushed me in sports. That's kind of the dynamic that we had in my family. And so I wasn't like the lemonade stand kid. I was always creative, coming up with ideas of, hey, let's create this new game. Hey, let's get all the neighborhood kids together and let's go do this, whatever. Let's go get a huge football game going or a soccer game going or whatever. Let's go do a big, huge snowball fight or something like that. I was always able to inspire other people. Even my family, they're not much for going out. They're sort of like a homebody family. They don't really get out much, and my dad especially. And I was always like really adept, really skilled at convincing my family to get out of the house and do something. And so that's kind of where that was developed at a young age. And now I find myself doing very similar things. I inspire other people to be the best version of themselves. I inspire people to get up and get out of the house and do something, because it seems like it's better to be doing anything outside the house than nothing inside of it.
Yeah. It's so hard today also with kids, just forcing them out of the house and letting them roam. We have such trouble with this ourselves. We're not great at it, but I just wish that they were out like running pickup games, whether it's a lemonade stand or just playing ball. It's so hard these days. Such a different dynamic growing up.
It's so different. It's so different because I feel the same way. I'd like for my kids are very, very young, but I'm like, man, it would be cool for them to ride bikes and go climb this little dirt hill across the street. It'd be cool for them. But then all of a sudden I think to myself, now we have more information as parents than our parents did. And so it's like, there's a lot of bad people out there. You know what I mean? Like I'm worried now about I used to walk to school every day. It used to be like 1.5 miles, 2 miles when I was in elementary school. I would never let my kids do that when they were in elementary school. Hell no. You know what I mean? That's too dangerous.
No way.
But maybe that's something we need to get over. I don't know.
So growing up in that family environment, What drew you to the military? Was it, you mentioned your dad was big into sports, your mom was kind of the business driver. What was the military aspect for you?
My dad served in the Vietnam era. He was drafted into Vietnam, and as he tells it, he volunteered. Like in basic training, they ask for volunteers, and you never volunteer for anything, right? So my dad, you're probably not the brightest light bulb. He volunteered, but he got lucky because he was a signal corps guy, and they sent him to France to work on this new technology called computers. And so there were these big refrigerator looking punch card computers, and he was trained up how to use those computers. And that's what he did. And, being a rapscallion, I guess he got drunk one night in Paris with some, his buddies, and he got into a terrible, terrible car accident and broke his back. And so they sent him back to the States, where he finished up in Virginia Beach on his commitment on computers there. When he got out of the military, he came back to Washington, D.C. area where he grew up, and he became a government contractor. And so he worked at the AMC building in Alexandria for a long time. He worked at the Pentagon for a long time. And whenever I asked him what he did for a living, he just said, "I work for the government." And that was never weird for me. I was like, "Oh, he works for the government. What exactly does he do?" I have no idea. And it wasn't weird for me because everybody in Virginia, like when you're a kid growing up and there's like show and tell, or, "Hey, what does your dad do? What does your mom do?" When you say, "Oh, he's in the military, she works for the government," or whatever, you don't ask any more questions. And so I grew up not really knowing what my dad did, that he just worked for the government. Now, my grandfather, my mother's side, he was in World War II. He was in the Army Air Corps, which later became the Air Force. And he was a colonel in the Air Force when he retired in the 80s. And that's what he did with his career. So growing up in that area, it was normal. Yeah. Military was normal. When you show me your friends and I'll show you your future. Show me the people you surround yourself and I'll show you what you can do with your life. And that was a very honorable calling. It was sort of a calling that it was your duty to serve. And so I grew up in an environment where that was the status quo.
And was it always the Army for you, just because you kind of had the Army Air Corps side, your old man in Vietnam or during that era? Why the Army for you in particular? I know you take the route to West Point, right? Was that it? Or was it, I'm going in the Army and this is the path I'm taking in?
When you're a kid and you're playing in the woods, man, you're always playing Army. You're not playing Navy. You're not playing Marines. You're not playing Air Force. You're playing Army. You know what I mean? And I stole that from my buddy, Leroy Petrie, who's a Medal of Honor guy. That's his joke that he always says, which I like.
It's a good one.
And so, running around the woods with fake guns, which you couldn't do now, but when we were kids, we played Army a lot, played capture the flag, all that sort of thing. The Navy, Annapolis was pretty close to where I grew up, right? And so I didn't have any issue with the Navy. I just knew that, going fishing with my dad on the Chesapeake, deep sea fishing, that sort of thing, I got seasick a lot. And so it's just how my body is made, I guess. And so I knew I didn't want to be on a boat for a prolonged period of time, because when you're on a boat seasick and you can't escape, that's like the worst, man. Like it's seriously the worst. The Air Force, I thought it was cool, but I never had a passion for flying jets. I thought it'd be cool if I could fly myself like Superman, like when I was a kid. That would be pretty sweet, but not flying jets really. And Army just seemed to make sense,
Yeah. No, that I totally hear you. Same thing. Growing up, that's what you play. I mean, you're out in the woods, you're playing Army to some degree. So you go to West Point. Maybe just before that, since like for you, when you're going to West Point, everybody knows you're committing to that way of life. How was it when talking to your parents about like, hey, this is the direction I'm going? Were they pretty receptive to the military lifestyle? It sounds like your dad knew about it. Your mom grew up in that environment. Any difficulty there?
No, it was the complete opposite. When they found out that West Point was recruiting me, they were like all aboard, like, "Jason, you should go to West Point, Jason." And I was like, "Hey, there's some other schools recruiting me. I want to give them a chance. And, I don't know if I want to be at a military college. I kind of want to, enjoy my college experience." And they didn't force me to go to West Point, but they kind of it was known. I knew that they really wanted me to go. And growing up in that family, I never wanted to disappoint my parents. I always wanted to make them proud. And so that played a large role in my decision to go to West Point. Is my parents wanted me to go there.
And it's no joke. I mean, that's D1 football that you were playing, right? So could you just share, I mean, you talked about it as a kid, bringing people together. I know we're going to talk about some of the other work you've done, whether it was when you're on active duty or the companies you run now. It seems to be all about that team environment. What was that experience like for you at West Point?
West Point was a difficult experience for me, from start to finish. I didn't know what to expect, and I didn't quite mentally prepare myself for what I was getting into. I didn't have any friends that had gone to West Point previously, and I didn't really ask any questions. I thought, I'm just going to go there and dominate. It didn't exactly happen like that. It's a difficult experience. Yeah. And I remember the first day, like you stand in line, you get yelled at, you got to do your 4 responses. And I was like, this is a piece of cake. And there are other kids that are like, the first day they're fumbling over their words. They can't remember their 4 responses. They can't remember. I'm like, who are these? Are you kidding me? Like, this is going to be a breeze. This is going to be a piece of cake. And I found out at West Point, there was a huge schism between, the Army football players and the rest of the Corps of Cadets. I didn't know that going in there. And so my first squad leader, she reported that she was assaulted by 2 Army football players, and she, had a bias towards Army football players, and she hated them, and so when she sat everybody down and the plebes, the freshmen, and she was like, who are you? Where are you from? Why are you here? There was another Army football player, a freshman from Virginia, and we were friends. And so she was like, who are you? Jason Van Camp. I'm from Springfield, Virginia. Why are you here? I'm here to play Army football. Bad answer. You know what I mean? Like all of a sudden now everybody's looking at me. Oh, really? Oh, you're not here for the military? You're a piece of, and I was like, really? Like I thought, growing up and playing high school football, it's like, you're the man when you get all that attention and people are cheering you on and you bring notoriety to the school, and thought that was going to be the case, but it wasn't there, and that was difficult. It was tough to be hated for no other reason than you're affiliated with something. And I left after halfway through my sophomore year to serve a mission for my church, and that was an awesome time. I loved every second of it. I went to St. Petersburg, Russia. Taught the gospel, taught, the Christian faith, and learned a foreign language, helped a lot of people, had a great experience. Then I came back to West Point. So I was originally a class of 99 guy. I finished up in 01. My first 2 years, we had a decent football team. We went to a bowl game my sophomore year. I was getting playing time. It was awesome. When I came back to West Point for my mission, we were not a good team. We were really struggling. I think we won 2 or 3 games my junior year. And I was, before I left, I was, scratching the starting lineup as a sophomore. I was, getting playing time. I was almost there. And when I got back from my mission my junior year, I was, 17 linebackers on the depth chart. I was number 17. So I was like, oh man, I thought I was going to get a real chance. So I had to work my way all the way back up to where in spring ball, senior year, I was number 1. And then I tore my abductor muscle there in spring ball. And so I was out for months. And when I finally got back, I kind of rushed getting back, and I was out of shape. I had a gut, and we did conditioning drills. I always dominated conditioning drills, man. I barely finished, and I was like, I'm in rough shape. And then couple that with the fact that we were 1-10 my senior year, and it was a tough experience.
Damn. So I played football at Georgetown, which is one AA, and I was in ROTC, and I kind of found this difficulty balancing between like, hey, how much do I commit to football when this Army thing is going to be my future? It's kind of different when you're lifting versus running distances and the type of physique you need to have for that Army lifestyle. How much along the way, and I know we add in the 2 years on your mission, how much did your focus go from, all right, I'm here to play football, to, all right, my future is now the Army. This is how I have to prepare, if at all?
While you're at West Point, you can't not focus on the military, and this is my future and this is what's going to happen. But at the same time, you came there in the beginning to play football, and your coaches are really pushing that message. Your focus has got to be football. Focus has got to be getting yourself to be the best linebacker you can be. And you got to do these things. You got to commit, you got to sacrifice, you got to do all these things. So you spend a lot of time up at the stadium working out and doing those things and buying into that. And, you have your team around you in the locker room and the camaraderie there. So once football ended, it was kind of like, hey, here's the door, guys. Thanks for helping out. Good luck. And now it's like, I have to reinvent myself, and not just reinvent myself. I look at it like you have to rediscover yourself, right? You have to find a new purpose. A lot of people get really depressed about that. And it takes a little while for people to embrace that. Like, this was my identity. I'm no longer this. Now I'm this. What do I do? And so after that, you're like, listen, whether I like it or not, I'm going to the Army. I'm going to be a second lieutenant. I'm going to be leading men into battle. I'm going to give this everything I can. I'm going to give this a shot. I'm going to do the best I can to be the best leader I can be. And the big kind of physical changes, you got to start running, because at the time people were like, your worth as an officer is based on your ability to run a 2-mile run test, PT test. And so I was pretty good at sprints, as you can imagine for football, most of us are. Then you got to lose some weight and you got to run 2 miles. Yeah. And so I started focusing on that, and my friends did as well. It's kind of funny with the offensive linemen, because they're all 300-pound, 290 guys. Conditioning battles is a joke, man. These guys are always coming in last, and they're huffing and puffing. Once football's over for them, man, they just cut weight. 100 pounds, they cut, 80 pounds, 70 pounds. And all of a sudden they're cruising past you in the 2-mile run test, because they've been carrying all this weight their whole life. And now it's like they can move around 70 pounds lighter than they normally are. And so my buddy Johnny Carpuck, who was around 300, we called him Triple Chin when he was our starting left tackle. Now he's running like 11-minute 2 miles. God, and it's just like shocking, like this guy is just like a total stud running wise. So it's interesting how that works out, but that's how it went for us.
I don't want to pass over the mission trip that you described. And I'm trying to think back to myself if I were in college and I knew, hey, I got to take 2 years out to get from football, and I'm going to be delayed going into the military with these guys I started with. Did that weigh on you at all? Or you knew you were going to do that, so it was just factored in? How difficult was it for you mentally to take those 2 years?
When I said I wasn't mentally prepared when I went to West Point for what was going to happen, I was mentally prepared for my mission. I'd been thinking about it for years, for a decade. It's ingrained in you as a young member of my church, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, that you should do this. It isn't forced, but you should do this, and it's sort of expected. And so my whole life, most of my life, I thought, I'm going to do this. And so I knew going into West Point, I was going to do this after my first semester sophomore year. And like I said, it was awesome. Now, I was disappointed in that I was leaving my class, the friends that I had there and so forth. And I didn't think it was going to affect my football career as much as it did. That's the coaches were telling me everything was going to be fine. It wasn't, they didn't live up to their word, but teach his own, right? You can't expect that. When I got back from my mission, I saw my old classmates still there. They were second semester seniors now. And so it was pretty awesome to see all the guys again. And it was crazy to see how much they've matured in 2 years.
Interesting.
Like, I was like, man, they were all about the military now. They were like taking things seriously. They were professional. Like, some of the stuff that we joked about before, it wasn't funny anymore. And it was just kind of like, man, you guys have really changed. Wow. All of you. Still great guys, still friends, still can, but you could see that they were focused on a different milestone, different goal now. Yeah.
Okay. So we transition then. 99 is your graduation year. It's actually 01, you said, when you come out, right? So
correct.
So you're at West Point during 9/11, presumably.
Yeah. No. I just graduated. So I was in OBC for 9/11.
Interesting. In the field?
We were, so I went field artillery, as at the time most West Point football players do, and I was at Fort Sill, Oklahoma, and we were in class, learning about gunnery and all sorts of different things. And I remember there was like a commotion and people were kind of going in and out. And there was a guy there named Jeff Pickler, and his father was at the Pentagon at the time, and he had a cell phone and he was getting texts or whatever. And our instructor was like, "What's going on?" And he was like, "Hey, I'm sorry, sir. This is very important. I have to take this outside." And the instructor was like, "What? Like, what are you talking about?" So he went outside, and all of a sudden more people started getting up and going outside. And finally, like, news hit that a plane had hit one of the towers, right? And immediately I thought, "Oh, what an idiot. Some pilot, flew into the tower by accident or something." Like, that's the first thing that came in my mind. And there was a little kiosk in the hallway. They sold muffins and coffee and whatever. And they had a small TV behind the glass there. And there was a reporter on TV, and she was talking about the planes and everything. And there was like probably 80 to 100 guys kind of half circled around this TV, this small little TV. And then the reporter started freaking out. And then you see the second plane hit. And then everyone was like, "Dude, we're under attack." And then all of a sudden, there's stuff about the Pentagon's coming out. Then all of a sudden, the base gets locked down. They tell us to go back to our barracks, and await further instructions. And that was how 9/11 occurred for me. Just a insane experience, as it is for everyone, but that's what it was for us.
And I know you end up going to Ranger School. Eventually you find your way into SF. Did you end up doing pre-Ranger for that? What was that like? So after 9/11, right? Everyone starts, man, we're no longer an army that's training. We're an army going to war. And so as serious as people took it, their careers, now it went to an even higher level. And, if you're in the infantry, you're expected to be a Ranger, right? You go to Ranger school, right? In the artillery, it's not the case, right? And at the time, they had sent some artillery officers to Ranger school, and their attrition rate was pretty high, meaning they didn't graduate. And so they brought in a field artillery ranger to do pre-Ranger training. And so he came in and he talked to, 100 of us or so in a room. And he was like, "Hey, this is going to be very difficult. Only real men, can attempt to do this. Like, if you want to do this, meet me tomorrow at 4 a.m. at this field or whatever. We're going to do pre-Ranger training. We're going to see if you guys have what it takes." And he left. And I just kind of smiled. I was like, "All right, whatever, dude. I'm not interested." And my buddy, Andy Reese, he's a West Point football player as well. He was a fullback for our team, still one of my closest friends. He was in the room, and he's like, "Dude, that's awesome, man." And he's like, "I'm going to do it." I'm like, "You're going to do it?" He's like, "Yeah, of course. I'm going to do it, man." I'm like, "Seriously?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm going to be a Ranger, man. I'm going to go to Ranger school." I'm like, "Well, hell, man, if you're going to do it, I got to do it too." And he's like, nice. If you're going to do it, let's do it together. I'm like, "Oh man, all right, I got to do this. I can't, be the one guy in the friend group that's not doing this. I got to do it." Right. So wake up, 3:00, whatever, get ready, go to the field. There was literally 100 other guys there from different classes, 100 people there. And it's cold, dark, early as hell, looking around, no Andy Reese. Like, he's not there. No way.
I'm looking around, I'm like, "Where's this dude? Is he late? What's going on?" And then it was just a straight smoke session for like 2 hours. Straight up, like, we're going to separate, who's really committed to this from the guys that are just here to whatever. And so I'm fired up. I'm frustrated. I'm angry. I go back to the barracks. I go to Andy's room. I pound on his door. He opens the door, shirt off, boxer shorts, slippers, beard stubble, sleep crusted eyes. I look at him like, "What the hell, man?" And he's just like, "Bro," He's like, 4 a.m. came way too early.
No
man.
way.
And he shut the door. And I'm just like, that son of a, like, I can't believe this dude. And I was thinking to myself, well, I can't quit now. I showed up for the first day. Like, I can't quit. So I stayed with it. And it was a good 5 months of pre-ranger training where we had to wake up, 4 or 5 a.m. every day, 5 days a week, sometimes on Saturday as well. Because they really wanted these artillery guys, if they were to go to Ranger school, to pass. And so we whittled away over the course of the 5 months from 100 down to 12. And there's 12 guys left standing at the last class. And 9 of us went. 3 guys, for whatever reason, decided not to go at the last minute. So 9 of us went. And then 3 of us graduated from the 9. Yeah.
So that sounds to me amazing that you weren't gung-ho for that to begin with. And your buddy kind of talked you into it. Just looking at what you go on to do later, do you think you would have taken the same path down the SF route had you not gotten up that morning at 3 a.m.?
No, I don't think I would have.
Holy cow, man. What a life-changing event.
It was a life-changing event. I would have probably gotten out after 5 years if I had not gone to Ranger school or either Green Beret route.
Dang. Okay. So, So you pass Ranger school, presumably you're still in the artillery. At some point you move over to SF. Do you do a deployment before you're in SF?
Yeah. So I went to Korea for my first duty station. And then I joined the 101st Airborne Division for the initial invasion of Iraq. And so I went to just outside of Mosul, up north on the Syrian border in a town called Arabiya. And we kind of maintained border security there. I opened up the first free commerce train in Iraq. At least that's what it says on my OER. Do you know what I mean? Like, my boss gave this first lieutenant responsibility to do this. Here's a bunch of money, set up this train, build this infrastructure. And there wasn't a whole lot going on. I mean, really the Iraqi army surrendered and threw down their arms and ran away as soon as we entered the country. We were driving around in Humvees with the doors off that weren't reinforced by steel or anything like that. IEDs weren't really a thing, at that time. And every now and again, we get super excited because we thought an enemy was trying to attack us or something. And so I remember plenty of nights where we'd stay up on a rooftop watching somebody with an RPG, and when the daytime came, it turned out to just be a bush or a tree. You know what I mean? Like something like that. And we helped train new police officers and tried to get a new army stood up and things like that. And that's what essentially we did in the first in the invasion. We were there for about 9 months, 10 months, and then as soon as I got back, I said, you know what? I love being in the Army more so than I ever thought I would. But if I'm going to continue, I don't want to do what I just did. I want to be at the tip of the spear. I really want to make an impact. I want to have a meaningful life. I want to have purpose. And another friend of mine, an Army football player, Jesse Waters, he convinced me to go Special Forces. He's like, let's do it together, man. It'll be fun. And I was like, hell yeah. Okay, man. Heck yeah. Let's go do it. And kind of another twist of fate, when we submitted our packets for selection, I got accepted and he didn't. And so I was, going to Camp McCall in North Carolina by myself, with a bunch of strangers. Yep. And Jesse got out. But it worked out for him. Worked out for homeboy because he went down to West Texas and started an oil company. And he's made probably $100 million right now. So he's doing well.
Did all right. Okay.
He did okay.
So if we jump through selection, I mean, I'm curious how hard selection was for you after having gone through D1 football. You did Ranger school. I know legend has it, it's brutal. How was it for you before we get into it?
Ryan, my favorite military course I've ever been to was selection.
I knew you were going to say it. I knew you were going to be one of these guys that just loved.
Dude, I loved it. You know why I loved it is because there was no yelling. There was no like, hey, formation, oh, you piece of whatever. Nothing. They put a white dry erase board on the rocks in between the barracks. And it just said, this is the time for our next event. This is where you need to be. This is the uniform you need to be in. That's it. They didn't even knock on your door and tell you anything. They just said, hey, somebody from your barracks should go out every 5 minutes to check to make sure that there's nothing new on the board, And so that's what we did. We waited around until somebody put something on the whiteboard, and then we showed up. And sometimes you knew there was going to be some sort of run because you're wearing, the PT gear, and you line up, somewhere on a dirt road in the forest, and they're like, all right, guys, everything you do or fail to do will be assessed and judged. Perform at your absolute best. On your marks, get set, go. And you start running. You're like, hey, are we running 2 miles? Is it 8 miles? Is it whatever? You have no idea. You just do the best you can, you run. And then there's a finish line at some point, and you finish. They write your time down. They don't say good job or, that's not your best effort. They don't say anything like that. And then you just go back to the barracks. And I love that, man. That was awesome.
When you come out of that, do you go straight into being a team leader, or do they break you in at all, like with a deployment somewhere, some rotation? Or are you taking command basically coming out of that?
No, once you're in the pipeline, you're not going anywhere. So the pipeline is for officers about 2 years, 2.5 years. And you go to selection first. And things have changed throughout the years. But when I went through, this is how it went. You go to selection first. And it was about a month. You finish that up, you either get selected or you don't. Then you go to phase 2, which is kind of small unit tactics. So like a mini ranger school. So you're back out in the woods doing that sort of thing. It was nice refresher. It was fun to be back on a team with guys. And you needed the refresher training. I did certainly. And then also you're with all these new, what they call them 18 X-rays. So guys that joined the Army just for the chance to go become a Green Beret. And they make it really hard for them outside of basic training, and so if you make it, you earned your spot there, but you're still very young in the military. You've actually never served in the Army. You're still kind of just going through training. So you do that for a couple months. And then phase 3 is sort of the MOS specific training. So I was an 18 Alpha, which is an officer. So we did a lot of classroom stuff, book stuff, learning, briefing, learning the other MOSs, going on missions in DC and North Carolina and so forth. And then phase 4 is it's Robin Sage, which is a sort of role-playing exercise in North Carolina, near economically distressed towns that are, all the people there have been hired to be role players in a fictional country called Pineland. And you make a bunch of decisions, and it's awesome. It's amazing. Phase 5 was language school. And so I was a Russian speaker, I was 3.3, which is the top score you could get. And so I was in a classroom being taught by a Russian woman with a bunch of guys who don't know how to say hello in Russian.
Oh my God. How painful was that?
Well, it was awesome because
you could
at first, like they would give us tests, these Russian tests, and all the guys in the classroom, they didn't know, these multiple choice tests. They're like, I don't know what answer it is. And so they all just look at me, and I'd just be like, A, C, like I just tell them, and they all look at me and they'd be like, okay, they write it down. And my instructor was like, all right, Jason. And she tried to trip me with, speaking with me. And she's like, all right, you speak amazing. You go into this other classroom, and here's some Russian movies. You just watch Russian movies all day. And so I went to this classroom and watched Russian movies, like 4 Russian movies a day, and there were times when I went to the teacher, I was like, I'm tired of watching movies. I'm going to go home. And she said, okay, go home.
Yeah.
And then phase 6 is SEER school, survival, evasion, resistance, and escape. And, you go, which is awesome. You go out in the woods, you learn how to kill and trap animals and survive. And then you go learn what would happen if you became a prisoner of war, and then, you actually go on this mission that goes wrong. You're chasing the woods for a couple of days, then you get captured, and then you're tortured and you're tested and all this stuff. And at the very end, you're liberated from this camp, and they raise the American flag, and sort of your qualification course culmination just occurred. And then, a few days later, you're in a formation and you're donning your Green Beret for the first time, which is pretty special.
And that is a long time, 2.5 years for sure. And I've heard that's a really emotional, like I've done SEER, but I've heard that the one that you guys go through is pretty emotional at the very end. Very cool. And then you come out of that and you're in command, like you're leading a team.
So 3 days later, my new commander is calling me up. Hey, when are you going to get here? When are you going to get here? I'll be there in 6 days, sir. Okay, we'll see you then. And you show up at the new company, you walk in there, your company commander gives you your brief, your boss, and then you're walking into a team for the first time.
All right. So I know that's hard, just walking in, like running a platoon in the conventional army. Company command is tough. What's it like coming out of the course and straight into commanding a team? What was that like for you, I guess?
You get mixed feelings. For me, I'm like, man, I'm excited. This is what I've been working towards this whole time. Hope the guys like me, hope we get along well, we're going to combat together. What's going to happen? All these thoughts running through your head. I wonder if I have what it takes. Am I going to measure up? Am I going to live up? What's Colorado like? Like all sorts of stuff. And yeah. And so, I walk into the team room the first time and the guys, of course, they're going to give me a hard time. They're talking trash, they're not being super respectful, want to see how you're going to react. You're going to lose your cool or not, that sort of thing. And I remember, my new team sergeant, so my right-hand guy, he also wasn't super cool. Usually they're like, oh, come on in here, sir. These guys are just, giving you a hard time, welcome, let's hang out, let's talk. My guy wasn't like that. He was like, hey, we're going to do PT tomorrow morning. You better be prepared for it. And I was scared shitless, man. I was like, these guys are going to smoke me. You know what I mean? Like, I'm good, but I'm sure these guys are going to outrun me by 2 minutes. I got to bring my A game. I was so worried. I was so worried about that run. I was like, we're in Colorado, we're at higher altitude. I'm going to, like all this stuff. And so we show up and I'm like, all right, man, all right, Van Camp, you got to bring it, man. What kind of leader, what kind of commander are you going to be? And we start running. And I was shocked because my guys were terrible at running. I was like, you're an SF team? Are you kidding me? When's the last time you guys did PT or ran? And they're like, shut up, sir. Like stuff like that. I'm like, all right,
wow.
Let's go. Like it's a joke though,
Yeah.
And so I wasn't worried after that. I was like, all right, I can smoke these guys. We're good to go,
So I know we're tight on time. I did want to just ask, like, I haven't ever talked to a guy who's been a team leader in this setting. Like when you get fast forward into a deployment, was there one in particular, like some mission that you went on that was particularly difficult for you in that leadership position? I'm sure there were many, but is there one that comes to mind?
Yeah, man, I went to Iraq 3 times, and the first time, like I described, there, was the initial invasion. So there was a lot of excitement and worry, but it amounted really to nothing. There wasn't a whole lot going on. My second deployment was intense. There was a lot going on. And my third deployment was also intense, but it was down south. So there wasn't nearly as much going on as there was in my second deployment. My second deployment, which was my first as a team leader, right after I earned my Green Beret, got to my team. 2 months later, we were in combat. We were just northeast of Baghdad, near the Iranian border. And our second day there, we got IED'd. I lost 2 of my guys. They didn't die, but they got very, very badly injured. One guy broke his back. The other guy had both of his his forearms completely folded back when they got blown up by an IED. And we had nowhere to go, nowhere to live. I had to find, my mission was to find a location, set up a combat outpost, meet with the local indigenous fighters, build rapport, and then take the fight to the enemy. And so it was a true, SF mission like that. And it was exciting.
Scratch. Not like ripping out with someone who's already set up the place. Like you were going in from scratch.
We were going from scratch, man. Going from scratch, which was amazing, but it was stressful and difficult. And we found a spot to go. And next thing you know, we're getting mortared from across this river almost nightly, from the enemy. And we start finding out, there's an Iraqi army there. There's an Iraqi police group there. And we're like, hey, what's going on across the river here? Oh, this village called Tibage. And we don't go over there. What do you mean we don't go over there? Oh, it's too dangerous. Enemy, bad guys. Al-Qaeda has that. Well, that's exactly why you should go over there. Like, no. No. I'm like, all right, we're getting IED'd or we're getting mortared every night, nearly. You guys are getting mortared as well, and you don't want to go over there because it's dangerous. All right, we're going to change this mindset here. And so we had to find out who we could trust, and quickly found out that there weren't many people there we could trust. And so I found out that we could bring down Kurdish Peshmerga fighters from the north, and there was a demarcation line where they couldn't pass. And that was just north of where our outpost was. And so I got General Petraeus to agree to, move that line for us. And so we brought down 600 Kurds, and they were ecstatic to be there. They wanted to retake the land that was, illegally taken from them, and they wanted to prove that they were worthy, and Peshmerga is translated to those who face death. And so they were great fighters. And we went into Tibage, and there were like 13 IEDs in the road leading up to the village. This is that little village across the river. And the commander of the Kurdish fighters, he was a general, General Shetu, and he got out of his vehicle and he dismantled every single one of those IEDs himself. And I was like, man, this guy's trying really hard to impress us. And he did impress the hell out of me. And we got to this village, and of course, the enemy saw us coming en masse. They ran away. They left. And so I said, you know what's going to happen is clearly we're going to leave. The enemy is just going to matriculate back into the village. So here's what I want to do. General Shetu, you're going to stay here. You're not going anywhere. And when these Al-Qaeda forces come back in the village, you're just going to, arrest them one by one and hold them here. And we left. We took our Humvees. We left. General Shetu and his guys stayed there. The enemy saw our Humvees leave. They started to come back into the village, and Shetu and the Kurds started taking them one by one. And that was a shock to the enemy. Now all of a sudden we have, this foothold. We have this established, this location where we could run operations from. And we completely eradicated Al-Qaeda from this area. One of the last missions we went on, it was to a city called Karatapa. And the mayor there came down and he's like, my city's been overtaken. Al-Qaeda's completely taken it over. They're, installing Sharia law here. Please help us. And we're like, okay, give us some time. And so on 9/11, we went and did an operation up there and completely cleared the entire city. And we let the Kurds do their thing, and they were going crazy, and they were celebrating and, doing a lot of things up there, so that was kind of the culmination of our second deployment. However, we had one mission on August 15th where we had a guy who was kind of telling us, in my village, there's a battalion of Al-Qaeda fighters and they're doing Sharia law here and all this stuff. And we're like, all right, dude, whatever. We've heard this a million times from a million different people. But he kept coming in and saying this stuff. And we said, all right, well, we'll go check it out. And so one day I got my team, and just to be safe, just so that we had overwhelming force superiority, I got the Kurds and got about 150, 200 of them to come with me. And we drove to his village in the middle of the day, which we never did. We always fought at night, and every sort of police outpost we passed on the way to the village, we'd stop those officers and we took their cell phones just in case they were early warning for these, Al-Qaeda guys. And so we go into this village, and sure as hell, there was a battalion meeting going on there. There was about 40 guys there, and they were shocked as hell to see Humvees like rolling over the hills. And all of a sudden, cars are going everywhere. And all of a sudden, we're like, yeah, something's going on. Let's go after these cars. My guys were chasing them down, firing them up, and we found this one compound where it was pretty clear where the enemy was holed up, and I tried to position my guys to surround the building, and then my team sergeant, his 50 cal on top of his Humvee went down, and so he couldn't shoot. So he said he made the decision on his own to go into the compound. And so 3 of the guys got into a stack, and they went to assault the building, and somebody got on the roof of the building and with an AK and just sort of sprayed my guys as they were running up, and it hit my team sergeant in his legs. You know, he went down, and it hit my senior 18 Echo, my engineer, Rob. It hit him in the head. And I was in the process of running down this car in my Humvee, and we hear on the radio, you know, Eagles down, Eagles down, Eagles down. And I was just pissed, you know, because I told my guys, I was like, hey, don't do anything, like wait for me. But at the same time, you're in combat, you got to trust your guys, especially Green Berets, to make good decisions and do what they think is best. And so I took my vehicle up to the compound, and I saw my team sergeant, Don. He was sitting on his butt and, you know, with his back to this dirt wall. You know, I was like, what the hell are you doing, man? And he just kind of looked at me with defeated eyes, and I could tell like he was, you know, struggling. And he said, you know, I've been shot. And we looked at him, he got shot through his legs. So a medic went to him to take care of him. And I went around the other corner of the building, you know, and my 18 Bravo, Chris, he was on all fours, and he was sort of not mentally there, you know, and he was always really calm and cool, you know, dude, you know, total operator. And I was like, calm down, dude, calm down. What's going on? And he said, Rob has been hit. And Rob was laying on his back, and I didn't see any blood. And I went to him, and I was kind of frantically looking to see where, you know, if there was any blood. I couldn't find any. And I was like, where was he shot? Where was he shot? And he goes, in the head. And I looked at his helmet, and his Kevlar helmet had the trace of a bullet kind of split his helmet, you know. And I lifted up his helmet, and then blood just started like just coming out. And I got the helmet off, and his head was it's kind of like somebody parted his hair with a bullet, just kind of all the way across. And I man, I'd never seen anything like that before in my life, man. So there was a moment of like, you know, whoa, you know, and I held his head together with my hands. And then I went and got my medic. I'm like, you know, Tim, get over here. You know, we got to get Rob fixed up, man. He's been hit in the head. And I guess at the time, Tim looked at him, and his decision was like, oh man, Rob's gone, you know? But he didn't say that to me. And if he said that to me, I wouldn't have been happy. So he's like, get Rob on top of the Humvee. And so Chris and I lifted Rob on the hood of the Humvee. Tim grabbed Don, threw him in the back of the Humvee. He got in the driver's seat, and we just got out of there behind a berm, got the guys down. And I was like, Tim, what should we do? And he's like, here's some gauze, you know, hey, let's do a tracheotomy on him, make sure he can breathe. And we were calling, you know, I'm calling in the helicopters to come in and pick up these guys, the medevac copters and everything. And they took them away, and they were both breathing when they left. And I thought to myself, you know, we're Green Berets, we're invincible, everything's going to be fine. You know, it's a tough situation, but these guys are going to pull out of it. And I rallied the guys, and we assaulted the building. And we ultimately ended up killing 16 guys, and we captured 9 guys on that mission. And, you know, we took them back and gave them to the Kurds, and the Kurds interrogated them, got some good information from them. And ultimately found out Rob had expired on the helicopter. And Don made a recovery, and he's okay now. But that was, you know, by far the toughest mission I ever went on, you know. Wow. You know, we went in there thinking, oh, this is great, man. The enemy finally can see us face to face. Let's go, you know, destroy these guys. And, you know, the thing is, you know, like I said, we killed 16 and captured 9 and got a lot of information, but I wouldn't trade that for Rob's life.
Yeah.
You know, I wouldn't trade that again. No way.
Man, I have so many questions, but I know we're already over time, Jason. So I would just, you know, if you are okay, I want to make sure we talk about Mission 60 and Warrior Rising, which I would guess is born out of this and maybe deliberate discomfort. If you want to share just a little bit on that, they sound like fantastic initiatives. I would love to make sure people hear about them.
Oh, certainly, certainly. I wanted to create a business because I'm a leader, and I love being a leader, and I love helping people. I love inspiring people to be the best version of themselves. And I love being around a team of like-minded individuals. So similar to, what you would imagine a team room feels like and looks like and smells like in a locker room in sports. Like, you miss that when you leave it, and it's hard to find that again. But Mission 60 and Warrior Rising kind of fulfills that for me. It fulfills finding purpose again. And I'm happiest when I'm being selfish about being selfless. I'm happy when I'm serving other people. That's when I'm happiest. And so I created Warrior Rising as a veteran service organization, as a nonprofit about 6 years ago, to help veterans and their immediate family members find their purpose again through business ownership. At the time I looked around and I looked at veterans getting out of the service, asking the same question that I did. Now what? What am I going to do with myself? Some of them get jobs, and I saw a number of nonprofits that help veterans get jobs, and they were doing a fantastic job. Some veterans need help mentally or some sort of wellness, and I saw that there were a lot of nonprofits doing a great job of that. I didn't see any nonprofits doing a great job of helping veterans start businesses. I just started a business, Mission 60. We were already successful, relatively speaking, and I wanted to give back. And so I created Warrior Rising to do just that. And so we help veterans and their immediate family members find their purpose again through business ownership. So how it works is, come to us, we'll do a one-on-one personal conversation. We'll find out what your dreams are, your goals are, your vision, why you want to do this. If you're in a good spot to do this, we give you access to education. We have a Warrior Academy, 40 video curriculum, helps you, translate the military operations order, the decision-making process into a business model. We have mentors after that. So a mentor will help you with your, together create a go-to-market strategy. And then we have financial assistance. And so we select a number of veterans for grants, investments, that sort of thing. We have several business showers a year. So similar to a bridal shower or a baby shower, business shower is an opportunity for us to give all the veterans everything that they need to succeed in business. Custom business suits, laptop computers, websites, marketing material, marketing videos, and then a chance to get a grant from Warrior Rising. And then Mission 60 is the first company I created. It's a leadership development firm. I combine special operations experiences and leadership from, Green Berets, Navy SEALs, Rangers, Marines, Delta Force guys even, with science. So I have PhDs and researchers and experts on my team as well. And so we do a number of things at Mission 60. One is called the Deliberate Discomfort Challenge. And so it's a 60-day challenge, and we look at the total warrior, the whole person. We look at mental, physical, spiritual, social, emotional, and professional domains and try to help you become a more balanced individual. And so we do great things at Mission 60. Check us out at mission60.com or warriorrising.org. Love to help out, love to partner, love to serve other people.
Thanks so much, Jason. I know we took up more of your time than we asked for. Really appreciate it.
All good, brother. And all good.
We'll have links to everything so people can find you, both initiatives and the book. Thanks so much. This was great. A lot of fun, and best of luck.
Totally a lot of fun. Thanks for having me, Ryan. Good luck. And thanks for having everybody. Hope you got some value out of it. Have a great day and great week.
I hope you enjoyed this combat story. People often write to me with incredible stories and suggestions for interviews. If you want to share a combat story of your own or from someone you served with, record yourself for up to 5 minutes and email it to ryan@combatstory.com. I'll select some of these stories and feature them at the end of our episodes. Thanks for listening. Stay safe.